Today, we're going to talk about what has happened over the past 2 weeks in crypto, or at least the two major events that I think most people are talking about, maybe three, in terms of what's kind of moving the markets. And honestly, there's some things that confuse me that I would love to hear what your opinions are. I kind of have my own, but nothing that's too certain. So let's go ahead and start off with what probably everybody is most interested in, which is on Tuesday of this past week, July 17th. All of a sudden, Bitcoin just decided, all right, it's time to go up 10% in 30 minutes. In fact, you could see Coindesk wrote an article about it. And if you go anywhere, if you look on Reddit, if you look on Coindesk, you look at Cointelegraph, there's no definitive fundamental reason why Bitcoin did this. There's no definitive technical reason that Bitcoin did this. I mean, you could argue that Bitcoin was bouncing off of this 50-day moving average because it does perfectly line up with that. So maybe we broke through that resistance. It looks like we tested it back here. But, I don't think that's truly it. I mean, yes, that could contribute, but there's nothing that feels 100% convincing that this is the reason why Bitcoin decided to go up 10% in 30 minutes, which when something like that occurs, right, that can be very frustrating when you're watching the market because not understanding why price does something of that nature, not having some reason to pinpoint it on, has got to be the bane of anybody that ever covers these markets, right? For example, if you ever read the Wall Street Journal, or if you work with anybody that is involved in, looking at investing in stocks, anytime a stock has a movement of, let's say, like 2% in a day, which in the stock market is quite substantial, if it has a 2% movement in a day with no news, no headlines at all, that creeps people out. They don't understand what's going on there in a lot of instances. Like, they need to have an explanation for why. It's no different with Bitcoin, except with Bitcoin, the numbers are a little bit bigger, right? 10%, then we start questioning. And here, there really was no solid explanation. I mean, volume started coming in. What I suspect might have happened is that we are close to this 50-day moving average. What might have happened is there was probably a bunch of trading bots, right, or algorithms that are watching Bitcoin to see any activity. And there was probably at least a couple of whales that decided to purchase Bitcoin. And all of the bots started picking up on that activity, noticed that we were trading right next to this resistance/support, and decided that we were breaking through it. And as a result of that, they all decided to buy in as well. But again, that's my best theory. That's my best guess. And that's all speculation, right? And that's part of the issue with following the market too closely. And part of the reason I don't do that anymore is that not everything has a logical explanation. It is worth noting that we are coming closer towards this 100-day moving average, which we have not traded above since back in May. So it'll be interesting to see whether or not we're able to break above that. And obviously, it's been quite some time since we've been able to trade above the 200-day moving average. So I think it's going to be interesting watching Bitcoin from this point on. One thing that is worth noting is that usually when we see confidence come back into the cryptocurrency market, we usually see this Bitcoin dominance figure actually decrease. And the reason for this is because usually people are going to start engaging in risk-on behavior and they want to maximize their returns. So if you want to take effectively a leverage position in the cryptocurrency market, you buy altcoins. That's what most people do. However, altcoins have performed very poorly against Bitcoin all of a sudden. I mean, it really has been quite sudden. If we go ahead and click on this Bitcoin dominance figure on coinmarketcap.com and pull this over a 7-day time frame, you're going to find that the slope of this line may not seem too extreme, but we went from 42.5% on the day that this kind of went crazy, all the way up to 45% very suddenly. And especially since Wednesday, we've moved up 2% in Bitcoin dominance. Again, doesn't sound like a lot, but that's billions of dollars that have shifted over into Bitcoin from altcoins. And I'm sure anybody that's invested in altcoins have felt that to some extent, right? If we switch this over to Satoshi levels or Bitcoin levels, you will find that most of these altcoins are at levels much lower than they were even just a few months ago. So, what do you do in a circumstance like this? Where are we in the cycles? Honestly, this is kind of an interesting situation because personally, I think that I've said this before. I think there's going to be another wave of capital that flows into cryptocurrencies. I do not know how high it's going to take it. And as a result of that, I will be very conservative and probably sell a decent portion of my crypto at around, I want to say 11,500 or so for Bitcoin. I will probably scale back quite a bit in my overall position sizes. But if this second wave comes, naturally, I think altcoins are going to follow along with it. So the question is, is this the beginning of the second wave? And I don't think so. I think that, if I had to bet money, I would say we still have a little bit left. I think we still have some time left before that starts. And the reason why is without any fundamental reason for people to pinpoint this on for why Bitcoin decided to go crazy all of a sudden, because it just came out of nowhere and nobody can explain it. I genuinely believe that's not enough to get everybody hyped up. I mean, everybody got excited about it. The Wall Street Journal covered it, although it's worth noting they covered it on B12, which is practically the end of the newspaper. So it's not something that's B1 material. It's certainly not A1 material. So it should be interesting to see what happens moving forward. But I think there needs to be more fundamental reasons for people to get excited and start having that capital flow back into the cryptocurrency market. And I'm sorry to say, but John McAfee saying that Bitcoin's going to go back up does not count as a fundamental reason. So it should be interesting to watch this moving forward. I think this was just one of those random moments where Bitcoin decided to spike. You can see that it's been trading mostly sideways since that spike. If we switch back over to TradingView here, it really hasn't done all that much. So it should be interesting to watch that moving forward. But I wanted to bring that up in case anybody has any explanations they'd like to put forth for why that happened. If not, well, it's probably just Bitcoin being Bitcoin, right? Now, moving on, we had this news come from Coinbase that they're exploring a few different altcoins to list on their exchange, which I think obviously that had a positive impact on all of these. It is worth noting that that impact was relatively limited. And when I say relatively limited, I mean, if you recall back in December when everything was super hyped up, right? In fact, I might even be able to show that. Let me go ahead and go into here and let's see if we can pull up XRP. And let's go back. I think the speculation began right around here. I wish I could remember the specific dates where everybody thought that, Ripple was going to be added or XRP was going to be added to Coinbase. I wish I could remember specifically when that occurred, but I do know it happened back around this time. That's why XRP went from being, practically, worthless compared to where it is now. And then all of a sudden had this huge movement to the upside. It was all speculation over them being added to Coinbase. That sort of response has long gone away. If we go ahead and go to Cardano here, the response to this particular news about potentially being added to Coinbase definitely had a positive impact, right? It moved up substantially, but we're not looking at a movement of this scale, right? We're not looking at a movement of this scale. Whoops, we are not. We are looking at XRP, but we're looking at it compared to Bitcoin. So let me go back and pull this up to the US dollar here. So yeah, we didn't have a move of this scale, however, right? Where I think XRP went up like 10 times over the course of a month, right? Or even more than that at its very peak. So it goes to show you the different mentality of the market now, right? We are much less exuberant, which is a good thing in the sense that that means that the risk level of the market has gone down. Does not mean that this is not still a very risky market, but the risk level overall has come down, right? Anyway, the point is, it's going to be interesting to see what Coinbase does when it comes to starting to add altcoins. At this point, they say they're just exploring the addition of these assets. They have not announced that they are going to be added to the exchange. But in the event that it does happen, it should be very interesting to see what happens to price over time, especially, again, comparing it to all the hype there was for Ripple back towards the height of the bubble. I think that's sort of an interesting comparison to make. And then finally, we have all of this discussion about Brad Sherman, who has said how Americans shouldn't be able to buy or mine crypto because it's, I mean, they said basically, he's said this multiple times over the past few months where cryptocurrencies are a crook, they serve no purpose, they allow for people to scam, or they allow for founders to not create products and do whatever they want. He said that it undermines the power of the US government to put sanctions because it limits the power or threatens the power of the US dollar as a global currency or the reserve currency, yada, yada, yada. Basically, very, 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 very anti cryptocurrency. And so everybody's freaking out over this, or, saying how this guy's an idiot. And I will say he is a smug idiot. He really is. But I just wanted to mention briefly that, I get why people get up in arms about this, but truthfully, it doesn't matter. I mean, truthfully, it doesn't matter. The guy is clearly an idiot. It's amazing to me that this is at the very top of being the most important post on Reddit, and how everybody's freaking out on Twitter on it and waging this war against this one guy who is very clearly absolutely clueless about what he's talking about. But I don't know, I guess that's this market. They find that sort of thing interesting. It gives everybody a reason to band together. I just wanted to briefly mention it because it's things like this that have made me stop reading about Crypto Daily, because I honestly just could not care less about what some guy has to say about this, even if they are a congressman. That's my opinion. All right. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As usual, if you would like to support me, you can check out my Steemit, where I post all of my videos, plus a nice little description that describes what's going on in the video. Plus, there's usually some useful discussion over there in the comment section. People tend to leave slightly longer comments and yada, yada, yada. So if you are interested in that, make sure you check that out. Otherwise, as usual, leave a like, comment, and subscription, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you for watching.